Hello, folks. Welcome back to Three Beers, One Cup. I'm your host, Macho. Over there, we have Pinky. Say hello, Pinky.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is Pinky here.
We're going to go ahead and talk about the current pandemic and kind of how it's going to affect our daily lives here in the near future, especially with the elections almost done. So, Pinky, do you think that the lockdown is going to last for a significant amount of time like it did the last time, or do you think this is going to be one of those one and done kind of deals?
Oh wow, jumping right into it. I think that largely depends on a lot of variables. It's hard to tell right now if we're even going to go into a lockdown. I think right now it's still being mitigated on a state to state level, which it's good, but it's in my personal opinion bad because I feel a response to a pandemic, just like a response to a terrorist attack, should be done at the national level if you want to actually have any meaningful effects at actually curbing this.
Also, while I agree to a certain point there, I think that the governors have I mean, they're leaders in and of themselves. They should definitely be able to manage the problem. I know that they're going to need federal assistance, but I don't think that you need to have federal hand in it yet, or at least at the beginning of this thing. I don't think you needed to.
At the beginning of this thing, I think 100% we needed to, and I think 100% if it was a federal mandated thing, there definitely needed to be federal assistance and actions put into place to protect the small business owners and the employees because when the first lockdowns went into effect, a lot of people were out of work, mandated by like the local government, but there was no relief for them. So they still were expected to pay rent, pay the electric bill,
A lot of that
pay.
really just came down to like political tribal, like tribalry, really. Like they refused to work together.
Yeah. It was
Everyone
horribly
completely ignored it.
mismanaged.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. I mean, both sides of the house have continuously failed the American people. There's only, I mean, the president has a lot of power. I mean, obviously the president has gotten more power over the years. Um, well, over the different decades and everything. Not just this president, obviously, but different administrations have gotten more and more powerful. But there's a lot of limitations. Obviously, the Senate is really, I mean, the hammer. I feel like at the end of the day, obviously not
Which
including the courts, but
and that also brings in another good thing to take into account, like one of the variables, is even with if the new administration comes through and it is Biden, um, what can he actually do at the executive level um, without the support of the Senate? If the Senate is still majority Republican, there's just not. If he does anything federal, national level, and says everyone has to go into lockdown, if the Senate just knocks it down, the Supreme Court says, yeah, it's unconstitutional, well, then, I mean, there's going to be no further widespread lockdowns like we saw in the
I
beginning.
mean, so I haven't fully delved into the powers, the that are given to the president, like the war powers and all that, and they actually have the capability to do. I know they can get pretty extensive. I don't, obviously, I I, I just don't see them obviously overriding like the Senate and especially not the courts because the courts are, I mean, it's a law of the land, right?
Right, that's basically like the last failsafe.
Yeah, that they're the ultimate veto, really. But I don't see them actually pushing back as hard as people think they're gonna push back because a lot of the Trump era, like the Trumpism, if you will, is kind of gonna blow away if his administration obviously gets into power. It's just it's kind of gonna go away. I mean, populism itself won't, but I think the majority of establishment, like Republicans, will fall into line. They have no other option there, you know. So
I mean, that's just the game they play, so that's pretty par for the course.
That's why I could definitely see a significant lockdown here of multiple months on end without a whole lot of relief. I
So
mean, it
if it was
depends on
up,
who gets in there.
sorry about yeah, accidentally cutting you off there. If there is a lockdown, it shouldn't have to last a couple of months. Like a nice proper lockdown where everything shuts down, you get your food curbside pickup or delivered to you, and you only go out for emergency services, and you wear a mask, and
So
your rent and all that stuff, your obligations are deferred for like about like a month and a half. That should like stymie the spread of this current pathogen that's infecting a bunch of people. It should stymie it enough to make ICU capacity not become overwhelmed, and we can get over it through the winter time, and we can open back up to and resume normal life, especially now that there's a vaccine on the horizon, which, I mean, the effectiveness is definitely in question due to
Pfizer
the new
said it
mutations.
was, yeah, they said it was about 95% effective, but I feel like they haven't taken into account the different strains, as well as obviously the new one that's popped up down there in what is it, Denmark or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's up there in one of the Nordic countries, one of mink farms. Um,
We know that it
someone
mutates
got
constantly,
the
so
got the pathogen. It went into the mink farm, and they made their own little version of it and gave it back to them. So, and it's spreading. But
I don't know.
since
Have you
the
seen any?
pathogen is part of a certain family, even if the just like the flu, influenza, just being having giving your immune system the tools through like from the immunization, it will be
Easier to battle and
so
everything.
like once you if you do contract like a different strain of it, and it's not for like whatever vaccine you got, um, it will, uh, hopefully, like in theory, with for like 98% of the vaccines, it'll make it so if you do contract it, it's not as severe. But I mean, there could I mean it hasn't. I mean, there is some stuff pointing towards it being like this, with like dengue fever. So dengue fever, if you contract dengue, um, it's pretty rough. Now, if you contract it again after that, it's even worse than the first time you catch it, and it's not good stuff. So,
I know that it
and
has been known, or they think that if you
reinf-
catch it the second time, that second time it becomes more and more deadly,
mm-hmm.
and the likelihood of you actually having some serious issues is it definitely goes up. I don't know if they've done a full blown study on whether you can actually get it, because there's still even some debate about that. I know that they say some people have, then some people are like, oh, well, some scientists are like, oh, well, no, you can't do that. Actually, it's just a different strain, and that's it obviously it's so hard to sift through this information at the moment because
There's a
it's so
lot of
new.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very new, and like especially in like the beginning, when they said it wasn't a health concern, it wasn't a global concern, and then they said masks wouldn't do anything to prevent it, and they rolled that back.
I think
Um,
that's so. Not to cut you off, but I
no, it's fine.
remember that at the very beginning of the year, I believe this was. Oh no, not even at the end of last year, December, right? We
Oh yeah.
both like we saw it on the news. I mean, I didn't really
Well,
think
it
much
wasn't
of
on the
it.
news. It was on
Well,
like what was it?
well,
WeChat, WeApp.
it was on the news, but it wasn't like major like MSM type news. It was on like small little article like science articles and stuff.
Uh,
That's where I first saw it.
the Chinese whistleblowers, like,
Yeah,
hey, this is happening here, and then they got put in prison. So
yeah. I know that back then we kind of found out about that. I mean, we knew it was gonna kind of get big. I mean, obviously we weren't certain, but it looked pretty bad. If China's shutting down, you can be damn certain it's pretty
yeah,
bad.
as soon as like January, February, when like they shut down the one province with the population like greater than that of New York, I was just like, China being the country that it is, like I don't really see them doing mitigation efforts like this for just the flu. Like, and so,
They don't just shut down their economy like this.
right.
Yeah, they are known to care more about their money than anything else. They have zero value for life. I think it's well known from the issue with the Uyghurs and whatnot. But
Yes.
either way, I think now that we obviously see another lockdown, it's on the horizon again. It's so hard because, well, at least for me, because I can see it coming again, but at the same time, I don't see it being that effective anymore because one, people are just tired of it. Quite frankly, you're not going to go out there and tell a family, oh, hey, you can't have Thanksgiving. I mean, you can do that, but it's just people will not listen.
I mean, well,
we're
it's
pretty
not.
stubborn.
I mean, well, so no one's saying you can't Thanksgiving. From what I'm seeing in the health community, they're saying if you care about grandma, you care about grandpa, and I mean you care about your other family members, you should really consider keeping Thanksgiving small and not having a big get together where people come across, like go across country and.
Well, they want like immediate family, basically. Is from what
Right, which I
I
think that's not. I mean, that's not unreasonable. It's a request. It's not a mandate.
Yeah. I know. Well, so I think that's where it kind of becomes an issue for me. So the moment you start mandating me to do anything, I'm probably gonna be like, okay, fine. No, I'll suffer. I'll suffer. I'll suffer this thing. It's not the greatest mentality in the world to have, but it's a little bit of a. I think in the U.S. we kind of have maintained a mentality of like anti-authoritarianism as it is, where you're just not gonna tell me what to do.
I mean, we're very what is it? Rugged individualism. Like that's
We're
really
independent
ingrained
people
in.
that just we love freedom, and if someone tells me to not do something because they think it's wrong or whatnot, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and turn right around and do exactly that.
Like even if you don't want to do it, they're just like, don't put your hand in the stove. It's just like, well, now you told me not to do it. Like I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, no, I love burning my hands. Don't you tell me. Don't you tell me how to hurt.
Don't tell me anything. But like, no, but like for serious though. I mean, even like so the simple the mask mandate, that's been like extremely controversial for some reason, and I know people are saying like I don't like they're like, oh, the government shouldn't tell you like you have to wear a mask in like a building, but then again, like it's localized. It's the state government, which I mean, that's about as constitutional as it gets. Like if you reside
States'
in the
rights
state,
and
yeah, right. So and if they say like, because just like I mean, like, what's the next thing you're gonna protest? You're gonna protest that you have to wear shoes and like pants and stuff.
I believe
like
it was
the decency laws. Is that like is that fascism?
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with some of those laws. I mean, if you want to walk around, butt naked or whatever you want to do, that's fine with me. I don't mind. So I think there's a big difference between things that are socially acceptable and that you think, society's just going to be like, I'm going to look at you real funny and you're probably going to feel shame, and things that should actually be like crimes. I think that there's a big difference there. And I think obviously the mask mandate and everything, I think if it's private property, just if they want you to wear a mask and you really want to buy there, get in there with your mask on. Like, it's not hard. Like, I encourage it. Sure. If I'm in my private home or if I'm on private property and you tell me what to do, then we're going to have some issues.
I mean, if you're in your private home, wearing a mask isn't going to do anything for you anyways, so.
Well, I'm also referring to if I want to have like 30 people at my house, just for some random reason, like I managed to find friends somehow, like I should be able to do that. Yes, it's probably not a great idea, but I should be able to do it. Shouldn't be able to tell me how to gather.
My only caveat to that is, under normal circumstances, of course, you should be able to have as many people in your house, your little tiny shed that you live in, as possible. But during like a global pandemic, that I think you're like putting other people in danger is, I mean, like they should get involved and tell you like, hey, no, you can't have 30 people in your shed. It's just not safe. Just like if I wanted, so
Like
this
having firearms in your house, like that's pretty unsafe. You
it,
shouldn't do that anymore either, right?
well, so no, that's yeah, I see the point you're
You see
making.
where I'm going.
But like, so he said, well, okay, what about this? Like having an open like campfire in your house, that's not safe either. But like you can do it.
Yeah.
Of course, like you're gonna suffer a lot of consequences for doing that, like lighting your couch on fire in your living room, like.
I mean, if you're into that,
But but I mean, like, is it fascist for the government to be like, oh, you're getting fined for burning down your neighbor's house because your dumbass like lit a couch on fire in your living room?
That's where
It's just too
your
heavy.
liberties end where mine start, right? So if I'm affecting you, like I'm actively affecting you, there's a difference between that and like me doing what I want on my property. Like me doing what I want on my property, as long as I'm not like, shooting rounds into your house or some crazy shit. Like,
and you and I agree on that. And if there's a national, like, there's a global pandemic, and you're facilitating, like, super spreaders and becoming a hub for spreading a current pathogen, I feel that kind of falls in the same thing as like shooting rounds in your neighbor's house.
So you would want to classify that as a crime? Because
not so much.
I don't know if you know about this. So in San Francisco, right? So there's a large LGBT whatever it is, alphabet people stuff. There's a large community of that, right? Well, they actually have like parties where they actively try to infect each other with, like I believe it's HIV. Do you think that should be banned?
Is it?
They're trying to get themselves.
Is it substantiated? Is this a substantiated?
Yes,
like
there's multiple documentaries on it. Yes.
I mean, yeah. That's because that can affect other people. Like that, if you're like knowingly trying to spread a pathogen like that.
But those people want it though.
It doesn't matter because if they get it and they give
it to someone else, now you're telling me what I can do with my body?
I mean, the government already does that.
I disagree with that. Unless, well, we will get into that later on, or some other time. But I think for the most part, if it's your body, you should be able to do whatever the hell you want with it. I mean, don't regulate what I put in my body. Like, simple as that.
Unless what you put in your body could possibly go to other people and like kill them. Because if you get like something like HIV, and you decide to like not use protection or something in your activities, and you don't tell the other person about it, and then you just kind of go on your merry way.
Well, so I'm not talking about people who are actively trying to spread it to people that are unwilling. I'm talking about spreading it to people that are willing.
Yeah, no. But if you, it's just like so like how would that be any different than someone willingly getting anthrax as like a terrorist attack and like infecting themselves with it and then going into like a crowded airport and like coughing in as much stuff as possible and like trying to spread as much as possible?
Actually, so currently there are certain states that actually classify you going around like coughing on people and doing that kind of thing actually as terrorism. Fun fact. So there's
if you do it,
charges.
So if you do it intentionally, it is bioterrorism.
Yep.
And you should be charged accordingly. Now, if you if you catch like a certain pathogen and you are just going about your daily life and you so happen to spread it to somebody and through no volition, like no ill intent of your own, definitely shouldn't be charged. That's just how pathogens work.
So that's where we kind of have to come back to. What if you're active? You're not trying to pass it to other people, right? But you are unaware of everyone in your surrounding, right? Because you don't know who has what, because this thing can be asymptomatic completely. So
right.
You don't know. So should you be held liable for that? Like, hey, I'm hanging out with my friend today. Oh, well, he had COVID. Oh, I didn't know. and then now I'm getting charges.
Right, and so I'm against that. But if there is, so like let's just use simple math. If there is math to support that there is an increased caseload in your immediate area, the number of people you should be allowed to interact with on a daily basis should be mitigated and lowered.
I feel like that's one of those main principles within the Constitution, where it's like, you can't tell me who I decide.
Right. What is it? What is it like? Is that the First Amendment? Like, you know, the freedom of speech,
there's some freedom of speech issues
the right to assemble, the right to
Yep.
assemble. Right.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's there, it's real, and it definitely is. This is like the same thing like the Patriot Act. A lot of the stuff
Oh,
that we
man.
hold dear in our Constitution. Yeah, that's a different podcast.
Yeah.
Is going to be completely like it was yeeted right into the garbage can. Kobe never missed. Sorry, too soon. But
a little soon.
but like. That was under the guise of like the terrorists are like under every leaf. They're in your trash can. Pretty sure they're raccoons, but they never said specifically. And they enacted all these policies, and everyone's just like, oh, cool, like whatever, like for safety, whatever, security. But now that we have an actual, real, verifiable threat that has a pretty significant transmission rate and the fatality rate.
I mean,
the long-term effects is I mean,
I
the
would say
long-term
we still
effects are
don't-
the scariest thing about it.
I would still say that, I mean, we don't want to give the government that kind of power ever. If we're going to do something, we have to do it of our own volition, and what we have to push for because the government's job, in my opinion, is to, and I'm going to be very careful with how I say it, and I hope it's not taken the wrong way, but education to a certain extent, right? I know camps and stuff come up, but no, you have to educate the people on what could happen, and like, hey, this is like at your door, because I don't think the government is actually doing enough to actually educate anyone on like the current pandemic. They're not actually going out there and asking, oh, do you know this, do you know that? No, they're just, hey, this is a pandemic, we have to act now, and then they're not actually telling you why you need to act now.
So this is actually very true. There, and also so it has so many different facets of government. So many different departments and stuff. They're putting out conflicting data. So there's a huge movement of people who say this is a hoax, which, I mean, with all the conflicting data, it's just like, I can totally see where you get that conclusion. Just like the anti-vaxxers, like they're putting chemicals in our body as they like take a drag off of their Marlboro or their Winstons or whatever.
Well, the thing is that it has been the vaccines out there that have definitely caused a lot of like irreparable damage. It caused a lot of death, but obviously they're not all the same. Not everything is ever the same. There's so many variables to everything.
There's a lot of gray area.
Most definitely, especially in health in general. There's so many factors to take into account. I mean, right now, one of the things that I was reading was that your blood type affected how this thing actually kind of hits you. What kind of symptoms you got. So
yeah, I know it hasn't been verified, but from the reports that are out there, it's like your O types and your B positive types fare better if they do contract the disease. Interestingly enough, if you smoke, if you catch it, it's worse for you. But since you smoke, you have a lower chance of getting it. But that's like some dicey science back there. Anyway, it's
I mean, that came from China. I'm pretty sure, like, or tobacco companies.
which is also like nothing you have to take into account, like who's funding these studies.
And that's the thing that we the majority of Americans
why people
don't take the time to actually learn about it, and find out, oh, well, who's giving me the information? Who am I getting it from? How is he changing the report that I'm reading? And it's just, it can be very frustrating for somebody on the outside trying to go ahead and be like, oh, well, I have like a million different reports here and they all say contradicting information. So when people say, well, I actually don't care anymore, I don't blame them. I just think, well, hey, let's just try to get educated a little bit more and push a little bit more information out there and let people know what's going on. Try to decipher what a lot of these reports and everything say out there, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think over the few hundred years that we have of epidemiology and what mitigating factors that have been proven to be effective, which is reduction of contact with other people, social distancing, and basically wearing like face protection, something to cover your eyes, your mouth, your nose, because when you exhale like droplets, particulates, all this other stuff. So I mean, there is some pretty solid science that's been backed up by a few hundred years of epidemiology that supports just bare minimum, just to mitigate your chances of exposure, and if you do get exposed, to lower the viral load you're exposed to, so your immune system has a little bit more time to react to it. Like wash your hands, cover your face, and
So,
like didn't just like don't like lick doorknobs or rub up against people.
that's gonna be kind of hard.
I mean, like
Hey-o.
they did say like the bubonic plague that killed like half of Europe. A lot of that could have been mitigated by just bathing regularly,
Or
like washing
having a
your
bunch of
hands.
cats everywhere.
Right, well, they actually killed all the cats because they said they had
Yeah,
demons
I
in them
know.
and stuff. It was like crazy shit. And then the rats are just like sick, awesome. And the infected fleas on the rats were what was like killing everybody.
So, one thing that I do want to bring up, which is a little off topic, not too much, I don't think. But so I don't know if you've seen some videos of some very frustrated women. I'll say women in particular, just because that's the main ones that I've seen. But people who are tired of wearing the mask, and one I saw of an older woman, and she was breaking down because she's tired of the mask. She wants to just see people's face and stuff like that. And I know that a lot of people were laughing about it and like, oh, she can't even take putting on a mask. But a lot of people forget. Some of us are very, very social creatures, and we need that human interaction. So when you put on a mask, it takes away so much from somebody, right? There's so much emotion that goes away that you just can't read anymore. Things feel very impersonal, and I had an issue when I saw that, and I was just like, why are you judging this person when they're feeling a completely human emotion? Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be close to a fellow human. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. And then you see people judging them, and I just think it's wrong.
I mean, on that level of it, yeah, it's wrong. But I think a lot of people are judging them because that person is putting their emotions before the health of the entire community, and it's just like I don't think you being able to see smiles is more important than preventing you from contracting the current like pathogen going around and like killing you potentially. So
I just don't think that we
but
should
I
invalidate
do
somebody's
it
emotions.
it
That
should
sounds
be
kind of odd.
invalidated, but like there should be a bigger effort of
I think it should be a conversation that we have, as in,
yeah.
hey, okay, so because we know suicide rates are up, right? So knowing that, we're like, well, some people really are feeling this because there are people who are like on the brink, and clearly they decided to take that path.
So
We need
do you
to
mind if
figure out how to tackle that.
I don't want us to get too far off from this.
Yep.
The suicide thing. I do not think the suicide rate is attributed to people not being able to see other people's faces. I think it's more economic in nature, where there was not many provisions put into place to protect your most vulnerable of society.
Well, I think it's just because of the general lockdown in general. I don't think it's just because of the mask, but I think it's definitely because of the lockdown. Obviously, there's economic factors there.
I think
But
people who
if you
are
can't be around your family, man, that puts a lot of stress on you.
oh no, that's a contributing factor. But
Yeah.
I think definitely the straw that's breaking a lot of the camel's backs on this situation is a lot of these people are seeing their relief aid. I mean, what they gave them $1,000 to last for like 3 months or something,
Yeah,
and
depending on your income, they lowered it, I believe. But yeah, no. What they were supposed to get one out a month ago, and then, oh no, we're gonna go ahead and be super tribal and not care about our citizens, and they
Right?
went ahead
Yeah,
and just
because this yeah, that's a different conversation. But
yeah, definitely.
no, I think a lot of people their relief ran out, and it's just like, well, my job's gone. The business I was working out like went under, and no one's hiring because they're shut down, and I still have to pay rent.
I
I
mean,
still have to buy groceries, and I can't afford it.
I think a lot of
And
people don't have a support system, and a lot of these foundations out there, organizations. Sorry to cut you off, by the way, but no, a lot of those organizations that were helping these people out, they, I mean, they shut down. They had to, right?
mm-hmm.
They had a lockdown, so there was no help for these people, and I think we as Americans kind of failed to see that in our, other Americans. And it's one of those things that I think we, regardless of who you are, just hey, go out there, check up on that, your brother, your sister, whatever it may be, just check up on them and be like, hey, you still alive?
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, like
yeah. Like check up on your people. Definitely, everyone, anyone who's listening to this right now, if there's someone you haven't talked to in a while, definitely, hit them up and just be like, hey, just thought of you. What's going on? Just want to check in, because that could make a huge difference, especially now in the winter months when people are, when suicides go up in
holidays.
general. Especially the holidays, it's very important to check up on people.
Yep.
Suicide awareness, because honestly, just a simple hello to let that person know that like they're not alone and people actually do think of them is enough to keep them from going over the edge. So
Yeah, I mean, any little thing you can do to actually kind of reach out and be a friend or brother or whatever it is that you may be, it helps so much. But I think a lot of people fail to see it, and I mean, we lose a lot of people that we didn't need to, or that we shouldn't have. But
so we've been talking about like a lot of the negatives of this current pandemic. I think let's talk a little bit about the positives, because I know you and I we've actually so we didn't used to since our geographic distance is so far, we couldn't really hang out that much, and being grown adults it's kind of hard to make new friends and everything. But due to this new pandemic, it's kind of opened our eyes that there is different platforms out there for actually interacting with people, and like right now utilizing like this podcast and the tools we use to do this podcast. And when we're not recording, we use this to talk to each other, and now we hang out a lot more often, and that's actually done a lot for my mental health. And I've noticed a lot of people, they've been doing the chat features and stuff, having like little parties from the computer screen and like playing games and stuff like online.
I mean, you can still do, online gaming. You can do. I mean, there's so many different options for you out there. There's Zoom and everything. It's just a lot of the
Well,
times I think we just get stuck on one thing, or like, well, I'm supposed to like, I want to hang out, and well, you can find other ways to hang out. And I know it's not
it's
the
not the same
perfect
as the bar
substitute.
scene,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's not. It's definitely not a substitute for the bar. I'm gonna say it's not a substitute at all. But
it can help in the meantime. Definitely, I think.
also, a lot of like the IT professions, there and like some other professions, the companies have seen the benefit of letting people work from home. So now you're not losing time sitting in traffic. All like because a lot of people in like especially urban areas, they are spending like 1 to 2 hours in traffic back and forth, and that adds up to like over the span of like a few years, like you lost like a few months of your time just sitting in traffic, where you could have been doing home improvement, you could have been spending time with your family.
So I'm kind of curious if that's actually going to go ahead and last a long time or not.
I'm
I
hoping
really
it
hope it does.
does, because I mean, it's good for the people who can do it, like their mental health. It puts a less strain on our transit system.
I mean, it helps ecologically as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Obviously.
good for the environment. Like, I mean, like I know when the lockdowns went in place, like worldwide, the
Now
carbon
that I think
footprint
about it,
like went down significantly, and it was like the best thing that happened for the environment.
now that, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, well, you know what? This could actually help save lives in a weird way. So, less cars on the road, less car accidents, less people dead,
Mm-hmm.
right? And obviously, traffic causes a huge amount of stress for a lot of people. Not me, because
One of the
I
deadliest
don't
things you
care.
can
But
do is drive a car.
yeah,
So
it's very stressful because you have sounds all over the place. You have to constantly be watching your left, right, back, whatever. So I could see it actually, helping people out in the long term. It's an unfortunate way to find this out, actually, but
I feel
we
like
gotta take the good when we can.
a good analogy for it is just like you have like a toothache and the tooth is like unsavable and like yeah, getting it like ripped out is gonna hurt really bad, but once it's done, like your quality of life is gonna be way better.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I do hear some interesting ideas coming from different people, within regards to UBI and other ideas that are out there. I say interesting because obviously I neither pro nor against yet because I haven't quite made up my mind yet. But there's some very interesting ideas as to how we can solve certain situations that we have around the world, especially when it comes to power, right? And I mean, it's really interesting as well the fact that we've kind of, I feel like we're not using as much gas anymore, obviously. So that's,
Big plus.
yeah, that's kind of cool, And it's sad that we had to find out, that we can live this way. And I don't just mean not being able to interact and like going from place to place, because I definitely think you should get out there. And I mean, national parks are still open, national forests and everything, like, or state forest, like go out there, do some stuff, do some cool camping and stuff, get off the trail, make some cool shelters and everything. But I mean, I think a lot of people are like, you know what? I think a lot of people are finding out like, oh, hey, I'm actually comfortable at home. I actually enjoy being at home without, and it doesn't cause any problems for me.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be honest. In my area, at least, and we locked down pretty hard. I haven't really seen like the only huge thing that I've seen that's really affected me is one, I have to wear a mask into every establishment. No big deal. Restaurants, I wear a mask until I get seated, and then I can take it off and eat my food, and then put the mask back on and pay, leave. Bars, not going there anymore. Gyms are actually open. I haven't gone to it too much.
Yeah, most definitely. I think there's,
So like
it's
my
helping some people in certain ways, but I obviously, I think a lot of people are just kind of finding out about how they live and a lot of their, I mean, honestly, their spending. I think that's one of the main things that we have to look at, where people are just,
But me personally, my life hasn't significantly changed. Besides, being able to being home
well,
more
yeah,
often instead of going out.
you then again, you weren't like a party monster that's like constantly out there. But if you talk about like the younger
I don't know.
generations,
I was
could
kind of
definitely see some effects there.
I was pretty big like a like trash panda or whatever. Going out there and for the weekends and
Doing the
letting loose.
yellow thing. Yeah, I know. No, I mean, it's, I kind of feel bad for the younger generations. As like my niece, she's pretty young. She's about to hit 19 years old, but she didn't have her graduation, for high school and things
And
like that she kind of missed out.
That's I know, like at that age that's extremely important, and that's probably that's gonna last at them like for the rest of their lives, and be like, oh yeah, I remember when I didn't go. But I mean, that's also kind of like an interesting story, like, oh yeah, I like graduated online and stuff. Like that's kind of, I think in retrospect
I feel bad
it'll
for
be
the
a
kids
neat
that
thing
are
to talk
a little
about.
more emotional and had a little bit some issues already. I think those were the kids that I really feel bad about, because if you had like problems at home and stuff like that, a lockdown is not going to be good for you.
Okay, so I can actually talk on this one because growing up, definitely wasn't butterflies and rainbows in going to school, even though I dropped out.
I'm sorry, did you have food?
At home, no. At
Oh,
school,
see, I was gonna
yes.
say that's fine then, but
Yeah,
okay.
like at school, yeah, I did. Well, we had food at home from the food bank, but people like where I was from, they just like to donate like the expired cans of, well, it was almost expired cans of like tomato paste and like like spaghetti noodles, and that's not. I mean, yeah, you can eat it, I guess. But that's definitely not like a satisfying meal. I mean, the school lunches and stuff weren't really, in the breakfast wasn't great either, but it
I mean,
was.
it'll fill your belly for the meantime, I guess.
And also, like, the social interaction, being with friends, and making connections and stuff, like, which, I mean, honestly, like, the biggest detriment to doing everything online is that you're not going to make those meaningful connections that you otherwise would have.
So
And
I hate to throw this in there, but so have you seen the video of it's a couple kids, right? They're like, I don't know, like less than second grade, like they're very young kids on Zoom, and the
hmm.
teacher gets out of the call or she turns off her camera and she's still recording.
I've
And
not
these
seen
kids
this. It
are
sounds ridiculous.
ridiculous, man. You have to watch this. It's fantastic. But they're like, we need to calm down. We're gonna get in trouble. They're gonna find out. The principal's watching us. Like they're actually really paranoid about it.
That's
It's really
actually really
interesting.
sad. That's so sad. When I was in second grade, if like the teacher walked out of the classroom, that's anarchy. And go for the Legos. Like,
Oh yeah, I mean it's party time at that point.
throw down the crayons or get the Legos out and go crazy.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Oh man.
We'll see in a
Can
couple of generations though how these kids are actually affected by this. Hopefully they're getting a proper home though. That's really my main thing.
that's the biggest. So the biggest function of public education was giving a kids a proper outlet to get out of like their poverty situation and
Or just not
interact with people
be
and
looked at the same way. You know, kind of being equal in a house in a place as opposed to being at home where they may be looked down upon.
hmm. And if you're in
Yeah.
an abusive household and knowing like how social services are, they do the best they can, but they're so overworked that they can't get to everyone. And like being from an abusive household, uh, having that outlet to like escape for like 8 hours out of the day, it was a nice little respite from all that. And
Yeah.
it sucks that during this current pandemic, the people who are gonna get hit the most in that age demographic, they're the ones who are they don't have like really any outlets to
The
go get
most
help and
innocent
stuff.
and the ones who really
Mhm.
have no recourse for it.
Right, and also like the parents and stuff, like the schools being 100% like online, like if your kid's too young, like it's illegal to leave them at home, so then you have to send them to daycare, which now you're paying. So my friend told me in our area daycare, like each day is like I think like 100 and some odd dollars, and that adds up to a lot of money a month. um
So I actually happen to,
and
sorry to cut you off, but
yeah.
I do know someone who actually works in the healthcare industry, and maybe we can actually have her come in here for one of these podcasts and talk to her about it, but and how it's actually affected her. But she's actually talking about how she actually has to take care of some of these, kids that are coming from households that are not the best, and how she has a lot of these kids who are their parents are in their emergency services or the government services, and especially the emergency services, so like your paramedics or police, stuff like that. They're having a bigger problem because their parents are literally going from going nowhere to going to work that's stressful and then coming back to even more stress, and how that's actually affecting the kids. But I'll let her actually bring that up.
You should
I
talk
think we
about that
should
a little
have
bit
her on.
more. You should talk about that a little bit more. I'm gonna go and do something for a second, and I'll be right back.
Awesome. All right, folks. While he actually goes ahead and he's probably gonna go ahead and use the restroom as most people do, but if you want, you can actually go ahead and find us on Anchor, right? I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but we've actually been distributed to a couple different sites. So we're on Anchor, we're on Breaker, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Spotify. We're going on Apple here soon. We're working on it, guys. And we're going to go on YouTube here soon as well. So if you guys actually want to find out about that, and go ahead and, go in there, go and comment, let us know, hey, maybe you're wrong, or maybe we didn't see a view, or we haven't seen an article. You can actually go in as well on Twitter, or I believe we'll be on Parler here soon as well, but you can go on there on 3 Beers 1 Cup, and we'll pop right up, send us a message, and let us know, hey, either hey, your audio's messed up, or, whatever it may be, or, hey, there's this really interesting article that, I'd like for you to dissect, which we can do later on as well, which also brings me to another topic. We will be dissecting the World Economic Forum here soon. It's taken a lot of research, though, because we have to be kind of careful how we present the information to you, because it's very obviously written in a manner to sound good, but we want to try to dissect that for you so that we don't sound obviously biased, or that we're not biased in the way we're talking about it, but at the same time we're not saying exactly what they want you to hear. So we will go through that. There's a lot of topics that they actually talk about, like the U.S. economy, Turkey's economy, the current pandemic and how to deal with it, systemic racism. They talk about multiple different topics and how to deal with them internationally, and what their goal is, which, if you guys don't know, just to give you a quick breakdown, the World Economic Forum is about 1,000 industry leaders, right? So different companies that are trying to make the Great Reset happen, right? So there's politicians, there's companies, there's, everything there, NGOs that are involved, and they're trying to make certain ideas and everything happen. And we'll go ahead and break that down for you.
Whoa, spoiler alert.
Oh, man.
We're talking about our next podcast. We're going to talk about the World Economic Forum and how
I was just getting a little breakdown
by industry leaders for their future business moves.
Yes, most definitely. That's definitely one of those things that we do. Like I was saying, we want to research very heavily, because we need to be careful with how we bring the information across to try to not make it biased as much as possible, so that people can make their own decision, and because that's not a goal here.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, and we just want to have a nice cordial discussion. That's our podcast, is we have a nice cordial discussion amongst ourselves about current events and the World Economic Forum. That's a really big topic that we'll touch down on probably once a week, and kind of delve into it, because it is a lot of the leading industries that are involved with this, and their vision for the future, and also they use all the analytics and the feedback they get from this place to anticipate certain economic trends and how to utilize that in their vision for the future to make their companies more successful. And so we want to, and this is them doing that has a lot to do with world politics and how every country is how they conduct
there's
their
definitely a lot of
policies and
politicians there.
stuff. So definitely and that's definitely another big issue. They do touch down the current pandemic and how this has shown a lot of faults with the logistical supply lines, a lot of faults with the government's reaction to a crisis. So they are discussing that. So I guess it does kind of blend in nicely to what our current topic for tonight.
It does, but I don't necessarily want to go into that just yet, because I think that's one of those things that's going to take a lot more research, just because of how many people are involved in that.
Oh, I was saying we're not going to talk about it tonight. I know you went on a tangent while I was away, so I don't know exactly what was said, what mean things you said about me. Probably like one or two.
Well, I say what I can.
And yeah, you know what? That's
That's my right.
Nope.
Red-blooded American. You dare tell me what to say, son? No, but all right, but no, I think all right. Let's bring it back a little bit. Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, no.
But no, back to kind of, I guess if you want to make a kind of a final point on whether you think that it's gonna cause the current issue is gonna, or the current health crisis is gonna cause a massive economic downturn, right? So like I'm talking recession, that kind of thing. Do you think that's actually going to happen from this?
Okay, I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna be kind of a little long-winded. I'm gonna try to keep it nice and short and sweet. I 100% think there should be another lockdown. I 100% think the mask mandate should remain in place for at least another 2 years. That being, unless of course the vaccine works, the trend goes down, then adjust accordingly. That being said, I understand there's a lot of constitutional issues with this, like the right to assembly and all that. I think a pandemic in public health trumps that, which since we've done this before during times of crisis. So
then again, I don't think we were as free in certain aspects, I guess. We didn't have a clear definition, but
so that said, if the local government, and by extension to them, the federal government, does not offer relief to every citizen, every business owner, if they do not defer mortgage payments, if they don't defer rent payments, and if they do not do a proper suspension of and like basically pause all finances for at least 2 months and just still provide services for people, if they do not enact something to that great level, and they do these lockdowns haphazardly like they did at the beginning and people lose their jobs, yes, there's going to be a huge financial repercussions, a lot of people out of work. So if they do not do those mitigation efforts for enacting a lockdown, they shouldn't do it at all. If they do half-assed measures, it's not going to help anything, because those people are still going to go out because they still have to work, they're still going to interact with people, and it's not going to stymie the spread, and it's not going to do anything for the ICUs, which are almost at 100% capacity, which means if you get in a car accident and your ICU is at 100% capacity, well, that sucks to suck, but you're going to probably bleed out in the hallway.
Yeah. See.
So if they don't do anything, and they try to enact lockdowns, that's just a disaster. That's 100%. That's just an easy mathematical equation. If you force people to not work and you force them to also still pay their bills,
what
and
about
then they get
specific
kicked
lockdowns?
out, it's a disaster.
What about like specific states, right? So we know that
it's
some
not going to
states
work
have
if
a higher quantity, and you reduce the amount of travel between them. What about that, in your opinion?
It's not going to work. If it's not done at a national level, if there's not a unified front to combating this, it's not going to work.
So
like if all 49 states proper did everything they did,
but yeah.
No, I said all 49 states proper. Like if they all
continental.
Well, no. Like, so the 49, like, so out of the 50 states, if all 49 states followed like the same guidelines and they all just did it together, but Florida's just like, screw it, and they had no guidelines, well, then all their efforts have been completely, it helps a little bit, but if the people are going in and out of Florida to all these other states, it's still going to spread. Like, everyone has to be on board, and they all have to suffer through it for at least a month.
I think that we all know it's going to spread. There's too many strains. I think there's so many strains that we can't stop this thing anymore. What we have to do is make sure that our healthcare system doesn't get overrun.
That's a big thing.
That's the main goal.
It's going to spread no matter what.
Don't get overrun. It's going to spread. You're probably going to catch it. Like, it's just how it is right now, because we don't have a vaccine for this. Like, it's mutating way too fast. It's funny because I've heard some people say, "Well, we'll get a resistance to it." No, This thing
Nope.
is going to travel, and it's going to get different strains, which it already has. Like what was it? I know there was at least 4 different strains.
There's
So
like 8 going
yeah.
on right now, but yeah, it's
pretty
just like
significant.
it's like yeah, you can get a resistance to uh what can you get a resistance to?
I mean, the flu.
No, but you don't get a resistance to it because you if you're around someone with the flu, like you 100% catch it. I mean, not to a severe degree if you've caught it before, but
Well,
you
I think
still
that
get
that's
it.
where this is going, though.
Oh
Where
yeah,
you're gonna
resistance.
catch it, but you're not gonna get like hit as hard if you've vaccinated.
So like chicken pox or cowpox, like anthrax, which I think that was what cowpox is. If you catch it once, you have resistance to it because that thing doesn't really change. So like you get it again, like you're not gonna get it. But the flu changes like almost every month.
Yearly. Yeah.
Well, it changes yearly, and that's what we see. But like every month, there's like a bunch of little different variations of it going around, and whatever is the flavor of the year is what you're probably gonna get. And yeah, so like this current pandemic, this current pathogen that's spreading, that it changes so much that like you're not there's no herd immunity. You're not gonna get a resistance to it. You're gonna catch it, but if you
I mean, I
if
don't
you
know
do
though.
but if you do catch it,
We
yeah.
don't know we haven't studied it long enough to actually know that much about it. So I think here, I mean, we're really adaptable. That's why we've survived that long, and thumbs are awesome too. But
Thumbs help a lot.
they do.
Thumb game represent.
All those wrinkle in your brains, but no, I think we have the capability to adapt, but it's going to cost us a very, very, very high number of deaths in the long run. Whatever the deaths may be this year, I mean, it's going to be. I think it's definitely going to be end up being like one of those flu type of deals where it comes back yearly and hey, or every 3 months or whatever it is.
It's like 99% going to come back yearly. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I think the years after this, and as it becomes more widespread and there's more vaccines available, it'll be less severe. But it is something we're gonna live with for the rest of our lives.
I mean, there's no way to eradicate it, really.
Unless
I don't see
some
it.
crazy thing in the health community comes up.
Nanobots.
Nanobots like get rid of it.
No, but I doubt that. We're a little far away still, I think.
I'd say nanobots, like the first feasible test of those will be in like 20 years. But yeah, I mean that's a long time. So what, this 2020 now? So in 20 years, 2040.
I mean, this year went by fast, but only because
there's not nanobots by 2040, I'm gonna be properly pissed, and I'm gonna write my representative.
Oh man.
Where are my nanobots?
Did you ever watch Back to the Future? Jeez. But no,
yeah.
I think for now we should do everything you can to prevent from spreading if you have it, right? And if you think you may have it, you have some symptoms or anything, hey, just don't go around too much. Try to stay at home. Try to prevent yourself from. Obviously, go get tested. Even if you don't have insurance, a lot of people don't realize it. Still, I've talked to people who don't realize that if you don't have insurance, you can get out there and get tested for free. It's definitely out there. Just ask. Go online and find
resources for it, because I know my little brother in Oregon, he suspected he had it, and he went to go get tested, and they charged him. There's no place that he could get it without being charged.
In Oregon?
Yeah.
Really? So that's weird. So for a while,
I know, right? You're just like, oh, no, Oregon has all the yeah, no. He's also
Oregon's actually super red. So
yeah. Besides the two big ones, Salem and Portland.
Yeah. But no, I think there are places that they do it. I think one of the places in Los Angeles that I found was, I believe it was like a church or something that was doing it. But there are places you can go. There's places that will take you even if you're from out of state, but those are pretty rare. But it just, You have to go out there and look for it, unfortunately. And honestly, it's, what risks are you willing to take? Like, okay, I know that if you have it, like, you have it, period. But what risk are you willing to, you know, put your family at, or your kids at, or whatever it may be, your spouse at, right? Or hey, maybe you have your in-laws or whatever. You want to be careful with that kind of thing. But I would definitely suggest, try to take the precautions you need to, right? So whatever you deem fit. So hey, like myself, at work, I go ahead, I put hand sanitizer, I carry it around with me, no big deal. I do wear a mask when I have to, because I don't necessarily work where it's a very crowded area. But
Mm-hmm.
I wear a mask whenever whenever I'm getting close to anybody, or even remotely close to anybody. So it's just little precautions that I think that we can definitely take as just Americans, and be like, hey, I don't know you very much, as American, but like, I'm gonna take care of you by taking care of myself, in a sense.
Yeah, like I like you, but I respect your distance.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you take 6 more steps. No.
Yeah, I just personally, I kind of like that, like where restaurants having the less capacity, so it's like not so crowded, and like the lines, like people being like not up, my ass. Because I get tailgated enough while I'm driving, so I mean, personally, I kind of like some of the ramifications of this pandemic, because it gives me like more personal space, which I'm a big fan of personal space. Personal space enthusiast over here. Um,
Well, that's called being an introvert.
no, but I really like other people too. But I also like my personal space. So I guess like what I'm an ambivert. It's a
No.
term for it. It's a term for it.
It's called bivert. You don't know that. No, but no, I have no
I don't think
idea.
there's any science to support that.
Debunked.
Debunked. No, but like for I guess like little the people who are tuning in here who are expecting us to say like this is a big hoax and whatever, we can't in good faith say this is a hoax, because we were monitoring it like as soon as it basically became apparent back in December of 2019. We were looking at the actual Chinese cell phone feeds of the people on like WeChat. What was the app called?
Yeah, I believe it's Weibo, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's a Chinese one. But no, I think we were monitoring this before it even hit like 1,000. But the thing is that,
it was like it was
that's why
localized a few
I
hundred
found it
cases.
so
And we're just like,
astonishing that
interesting.
like a lot of government officials didn't know this, and I'm like, literally, I know this. Like, I'm just a regular dude, I just like, I work, in things that allow me to use my computer, so I just browse sometimes, and I found out, why didn't the government act quicker? And that's, I guess, kind of an issue that I have, when they could have acted way sooner and like locked down, or not locked down, but like cut off travel, and like we would have been way better off.
Or at least like not even cut off travel, just did more precautionary measures, check the people coming in, stymied the flow, made it so like only like essential personnel could come from those countries.
One thing,
That would have done a significant amount of good for managing it and keeping the numbers
well,
low enough to not overwhelm the healthcare community.
one of the things that, sorry to cut you off, but I know there
Yeah,
was.
good. I was done.
Yeah. One of the, or several politicians out there, I believe Cuomo was one of them as well. But they're like, oh, we're just going to go to Chinatown, and we're going to walk around, and we're going to do business. And
That was
do this
Canada, and it was one of their people over
well,
there.
no, we had some politicians over here say the same thing. But I know they said, like, oh, no, it's okay. Well, you can walk around and do whatever you want. This is, like, kind of a non-issue, and it's that kind of thing, especially when I was following it, like I was on it, like, because I know once we found out, we were like, wait, this actually looks kind of weird, and honestly, we kind of both convinced each other that it was kind of weird, but no,
I mean,
we saw it and we're just like, hey, this is not cool, this is gonna be some issues, and we got ready for it, But a lot of politicians just kind of shoved it off. just because
Well,
hey, I
I
have
mean,
to be tribalistic.
well, I mean, a lot of politicians, they get their votes on public appearance and popularity contests, like how good their Facebook is and stuff. So it's not really so much because if one politician was just like, oh yeah, like if they recognize it, then they probably would have lost like a lot of votes and probably not got reelected. So
Well, yeah, you can't.
that's the game.
You
That's the
can't work
game.
with the
So,
enemy, right? That's how they view it, at least
hmm
I think. But
so
no, I
I think
think
they're going down with their fingers crossed and hoping it was a bunch of nothing, but it turned out to be a bunch of something. And I know a few people tuning in here are probably not gonna like that we
don't dismiss it completely.
yeah we don't dismiss it and we see it as like an actual health crisis.
I mean, it's definitely a threat. At this point, we've gone a little too far to where the point where I don't think we should be locking down. But obviously, I think that's where we differ in certain, in our opinions. But that's fine. But still, you should always do the most you can to protect your fellow citizen, right? Because we're all
Yeah,
watching out for each other, even though we're independent. We're
we should be.
free
Yeah.
birds, But like, as Americans, we should care about each other. Like, we're brothers, man. Like,
Like
why
yeah,
wouldn't you?
brothers, sisters, or whatever you identify as. Like we're all
Attack
you know
helicopters.
we're all here together. I mean, I don't know. But I think we should all have some compassion for each other and care about each other and take the precautionary measures to ensure that everyone stays as safe as possible.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it off here. But if you guys enjoyed the podcast, definitely let us know. We're going to be putting out at least one a week. Hopefully, we can get one of those World Economic Forum ones out to you
Yeah,
here soon.
that's actually gonna be a really fun topic, guys.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be really fun.
It's going to have to get real research to that, unfortunately. But so it might take a little bit of time, but we're going to shoot for the soonest possible. But you guys can catch us on Anchor. You guys can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts here soon, and of course you can catch us on YouTube. And it's all gonna be, or even on Twitter as well. And you can catch us at 3 Beers 1 Cup. Thank you guys for joining us so much. I know it's kind of a long podcast here, but no, thank you guys for joining us. Any last words, Pinky?
Yeah, no, thank you guys so much. Let us know if there's anything we can improve on. If you don't like it, let us know. Dislike, unsubscribe, whatever. But honestly, feedback would be wonderful for us. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to us ramble and rant about the current topics. But yeah, no, thanks again so much for joining us.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us on 3 Beers 1 Cup again. And Macho, always saying, I'm out.
Pinky out.